There's an island where the trees bleed red, where the language has no alphabet, and where one man has lived alone in a sea cave for 50 years. It belongs to a country the world calls one of the most dangerous on Earth, and yet it might be the safest, strangest, most beautiful place you've never heard of. Picture an island so cut off from everything that life here took a different path entirely. The trees grew shapes you won't see anywhere else. The people kept a tongue no outsider can read. And the rules of the modern world, money, hospitals, crime, barely reached the shore. This is Socotra, and these are 15 facts that will make you want to go before the rest of the world catches on. Let's start with something you can hear but cannot read. About 60,000 people call Socotra home, and they speak a language most of the world has never encountered, Socotri. It belongs to the ancient South Semitic family, older cousins of Arabic, and it has survived on this single island for thousands of years. Here's what makes it extraordinary. Socotri has traditionally had no written form, no alphabet, no books, no street signs. The entire language has been carried forward by voice alone, parent to child, grandparent to grandchild, across generation after generation for millennia. Every word is a thread held only in human memory. It's so distinct from the Arabic of the mainland that when a Socotri person travels to Yemen and speaks their native tongue, locals often can't understand a single word. Some assume the speaker must be from Somalia or somewhere far across the sea. Imagine carrying a language that your own countrymen mistake for a foreign one. Because the language was never written down, the entire culture is carried in spoken form. History here isn't kept in archives, it's kept in people. At night, families still gather around fires and pass down the tales of their ancestors out loud, the way it has always been done, one voice, one generation, handing the past to the next. The islanders even learned to navigate their land and waters by reading the stars, a skill taught not from a book but from a grandparent pointing at the night sky. And there's one Socotri word in particular that locals say can instantly warm any conversation, a single expression of delight used for a stunning view or a delicious meal. Say it, and you'll watch a stranger's face open into a smile. Keep that in mind, because the warmth behind it is the real story of this island. Forget the handshake. On Socotra, the traditional greeting is to lean in and gently press your nose against the other person's, nose to nose. To an outsider, it can look for one startled half second like the other person is leaning in for a kiss. Visitors describe the comedy of that first attempt, the awkward lean, the near miss, the laughter from everyone watching. But once you understand it, it stops being strange and starts being beautiful. It's a greeting built on closeness, not distance. One quick note for honesty's sake, because the people here care about getting it right. This nose greeting isn't unique to Socotra alone. Versions of it are practiced across parts of the Arab world and the Gulf. But here it carries the particular warmth of a place where almost everyone knows everyone. And that warmth runs deep. Step into a village, and the local sheikh, the head of the tribe, is essentially bound by custom to invite you in for tea. Pass through someone's land, and you'll be welcomed as a guest before you've even said your name. Travelers who have been everywhere consistently rank the people here among the kindest they have ever met anywhere on the planet. On an island this isolated, hospitality isn't a courtesy. It's a way of surviving together. Now let's talk about what isolation does to life itself. When a piece of land is sealed off from the rest of the world for millions of years, its plants and animals stop competing with the outside and start becoming something entirely their own. They drift, they adapt, they turn into species that exist in exactly one place and nowhere else. Socotra is the textbook example. This single island is home to more than 700 endemic species, meaning species found nowhere else on the planet. Roughly 1 in 3 of its plants grows only here. Botanists describe stepping off the plane and immediately spotting a dozen plants they've never seen in the wild in their lives. And it isn't only the plants. The animals went their own way too. There's the Socotra starling, and a glossy black bird with a single striking blue eye that quietly does some of the island's most important work, spreading seeds from tree to tree and helping the whole ecosystem hold together. There's the Socotra sunbird, small and shimmering, found on this island and no other. It all adds up to something almost unreal. A tightly woven web of life where plant shelters animal and animal carries seed, each species leaning on the others to survive the island's harsh conditions. It's less like visiting an island and more like visiting a living museum of evolution, a place where nature was left alone long enough to fully show its imagination. But here's the question that hangs over all of it. How did one small island lost in the Arabian Sea grow plants and creatures found nowhere else on Earth? The answer is about 90 million years old, and we'll get there. But first, meet the strangest local of them all. Because the strangest resident of Socotra isn't a plant at all. It's a spider, and it sounds invented. Meet the Socotra blue baboon tarantula. Across its legs runs a color that doesn't look like it belongs on a living thing. A vivid, almost electric blue, set against a soft, sandy pale body. By the agreement of people who keep spiders for a living, it's one of the most beautiful tarantulas on the planet. And like so much else here, it exists in the wild on this single island and nowhere else on Earth. But the color isn't even the strangest part. Almost every tarantula on the planet is a loner, solitary, fiercely territorial, and perfectly willing to eat its own kind. The Socotra blue baboon breaks that rule. It is one of the very few tarantulas known to live communally, sharing a single burrow as a family group. The mothers help raise the young, the adults tolerate one another, they will even share a meal rather than fight over it, a level of cooperation almost unheard of anywhere in the spider world. And if you're picturing a monster, relax. These spiders are shy. Faced with a human, one would far rather vanish back down its burrow than come anywhere near you. Their beauty and their gentle, family-living nature have made them so sought after that enthusiasts now breed and keep them all over the world. Yet the true wild originals cling to the rocks and red soil of Socotra alone. It is fittingly an island where even the spiders decided to do things differently. And now we reach the tree you've been waiting for, the one that bleeds. If Socotra has a face, it's the dragon blood tree. You've almost certainly seen a photo of one without knowing where it was taken. A thick trunk that splits into a dense, perfectly rounded canopy, like a giant green umbrella flipped inside out. As one visitor put it, it looks like something torn from a Dr. Seuss book, or in the words of another, like a brain on a stick, but the name is not poetry. Cut into the bark, and the tree weeps a deep red resin that looks unsettlingly like blood. The islanders have used that crimson sap for centuries as a dye, as a medicine, and most strikingly, as a way to seal a wound. Press the resin onto a fresh cut, and it helps stop the bleeding and close the skin. There's a reason for that bizarre umbrella shape too. It isn't decoration, it's survival. The dense upturned canopy works like a catcher's mitt for moisture, combing precious water out of the mist that rolls over the mountains and funneling it down the trunk to the roots, while the tight crown shades the soil below from the brutal sun. On an island where rain can't be counted on, the tree essentially learned to drink the fog. Every strange thing about it is an answer to a hard question the island asked. The oldest of these trees, scattered across the high Dixon Plateau, are pushing close to 1,000 years old, and they grow with almost unbelievable patience. Plant a seed today, and the seedling will still only reach about knee height after 30 or 40 years. The towering trees you see in photographs are quite literally older than most of the countries on your map. If hidden corners of the world like this are the reason you're still watching, take a second to subscribe. There's plenty more strangeness ahead. Because to truly understand a tree this bizarre, you have to go back to a time before this island even existed as an island. But first, there's a problem creeping up on these trees, and it has 4 legs. You cannot spend an hour on Socotra without meeting goats. They're everywhere, wandering the streets, crowding the markets, scattered like punctuation across the plateaus, and they are not just scenery. Goats are the backbone of the local economy, especially for the island's Bedouin communities. For many families, the herd is the wealth, which is why locals will tell you with a straight face that a man with nothing in the bank but a stretch of land and a flock of goats is in his own way a millionaire. But all those goats carry a hidden cost. The seeds and seedlings of the dragon blood tree are mildly poisonous, and yet hungry goats eat the young saplings anyway, killing the next generation before it can ever grow. With the oldest trees nearing the end of their 1,000-year lives, and almost no young ones surviving to replace them, the island's most iconic species faces a slow, silent crisis. Save the seedlings from the goats, and you save the dragon blood forests. Lose them, and one of the strangest trees on Earth could fade from the very island that made it famous. Here's a fact that sounds like a complaint but is really a love letter. Socotra sits about 240 miles, roughly 380 kilometers, off the coast of Yemen, and once you're actually on the island, getting anywhere becomes an adventure in its own right, because Socotra has some of the roughest, most punishing roads you will find anywhere on the planet. Travelers who have driven across every continent on Earth have called these the worst roads of their entire lives, and they say it with a grin. We're talking about routes where a short hop of just a few miles can swallow hours of your day, where the road is really a dry riverbed, a field of boulders, or a faint suggestion of a track scratched across the side of a mountain, where your top speed drops to a crawling 2 miles, about 3 kilometers an hour, and your spine learns the shape of every rock you pass over. To reach the dragon blood forests on the high plateau, you don't so much drive there as negotiate with the terrain, inch by jolting inch. But here's the thing. That brutal landscape is exactly why Socotra still feels untouched. The hard roads keep the crowds thin, the corners wild, and the whole island slow. This is a place, part of a country so often in the headlines for the wrong reasons, where the biggest hazard of your entire day is a pothole the size of a bathtub. On Socotra, the difficulty isn't a flaw to fix. It's the last thing standing between this island and a world that paves over everything it can reach. To understand why Socotra is so strange, you have to rewind the clock almost unimaginably far, around 90 million years ago. Back when dinosaurs still walked the Earth, this island was part of the ancient supercontinent of Gondwana. Then it began to drift, slowly, over tens of millions of years. The landmass that would become Socotra broke away and set off on a solitary journey across the shifting plates of the planet, until it ended up marooned in the Arabian Sea, far from any neighbor. That long, lonely voyage is the engine behind everything that makes this island remarkable. Cut off from the gene pools of Africa, Arabia, and Asia, its plants and animals had no choice but to adapt to Socotra and only Socotra. The dragon blood trees, the bottle-trunked desert roses that look like elephant legs, the endemic birds and reptiles, all of them are children of that 90 million year isolation. Socotra didn't become strange by accident. It became strange because for almost the entire history of complex life, it was utterly, magnificently alone. In 2008, the world made it official. Socotra was inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized specifically for its biodiversity, for being a place whose plants and animals exist nowhere else on Earth. That status matters more than a plaque. It puts a global spotlight on protecting a fragile ecosystem at exactly the moment the island is becoming famous. Conservation efforts now stretch from small local initiatives to international collaborations, all aimed at a single goal: making sure that as more outsiders arrive, the very thing they came to see doesn't quietly get loved to death. And there's history layered beneath the biology. For thousands of years, Socotra was a crossroads, a meeting point where East met West, a stop on ancient trade routes dotted with old structures, rock paintings, and inscriptions left by civilizations long gone. It is, in the truest sense, a living museum, part wilderness, part archive. The challenge now is keeping that long, layered story intact while the modern world finally comes knocking. Picture a tropical island this beautiful anywhere else in the world, and then picture it without the resorts. No beachfront chains, no rows of sun loungers, no crowds. On Socotra, you can walk what feels like miles of white sand and crystal clear water and not see another soul. The beaches are pristine, the coves quiet, each one telling its own story to whoever happens to wander past. For most of modern history, almost nobody outside the region had even heard of the place. That began to change only around 2020, when photos of the dragon blood trees and those alien landscapes started going viral on Instagram and TikTok. Suddenly, the world's most adventurous travelers had a new name on their bucket list. But the infrastructure hasn't caught up, and that's exactly the appeal. There's barely a handful of basic hotels. Most visitors camp, pitching a tent on an empty beach or beneath thousand-year-old trees, falling asleep to the sound of waves and the steady push of the wind. It's raw, it's simple, and for the people who make it all the way here, it feels like a secret the planet forgot to ruin. Land on Socotra with nothing but a debit card, and you'll have a problem. There are no ATMs on the island, no credit card machines, no tap to pay. The entire economy runs on physical cash, and if you run out, there is no quick fix waiting around the corner. Visitors describe the feeling as time traveling back to the 1970s. Need fuel? You pull up to a tiny roadside station, hand over a few bills, and you're done in seconds. No card, no receipt, no app, no signal required. Almost everything you can buy in a shop has arrived by boat from the mainland. The dates, the rice, the bottled water, and yes, even that smartphone someone special ordered through a relative who carried it over on a flight. Think about what that really means. There's no Amazon here, no next-day delivery, no convenience you can summon with a tap. If the island wants something, it has to cross the sea for it. Storms can delay the boats. A shortage on the mainland becomes a shortage here. The whole place runs on patience, planning, and the quiet understanding that you will simply make do with what's already on the island. It is a cash-only, boat-supplied, gloriously analog world. And the strange thing is, once you adjust to it, there's something deeply freeing about a place where your phone is nearly useless and your attention belongs entirely to what's in front of you. But that same isolation has a sharper edge. And this is the fact that turns paradise into a genuine gamble. The island has essentially one small hospital. In some towns, there's a single clinic staffed by a single doctor who checks your symptoms, writes you a prescription, and if it's serious, sends you onward to the main town. That's it. That's the medical system for an entire island, and getting off Socotra is just as thin. For long stretches, there have been only about 2 flights a week connecting the island to the outside world. Put it all together. The lone doctor, the cash-only economy, the supply boats, the 2 flights, and the math becomes sobering. If something goes seriously wrong out here, you can't simply call for help and leave. You wait, you're stuck. That fragility is part of why so few people come, and it's part of why those who do almost always describe it as one of the most unforgettable journeys of their lives. Some people, though, don't just visit the isolation, they choose it completely. Of all the strange and wonderful things on this island, this might be the one you never forget. Along a remote stretch of coast lives a man named Abdullah, who has spent his entire life, close to 50 years, in a cave above the sea. No electricity, no running water. Whale and orca bones mark the entrance like a doorway from another age, and a single solar panel given to him by a passing tourist is his only real concession to the modern world. He sleeps in the cave. Before dawn, he climbs down to the water, paddles out on a small raft to his fishing net, and returns with fish still breathing, which he cooks and eats right there on the shore. When he feels unwell, he reaches for aloe vera, eating it and even inhaling it, and swears it cures whatever ails him. He is 61 years old and he looks decades younger. When you ask him why, his answer is almost unbearably simple: because I'm always happy. His grandparents lived in these caves, so did his parents, and now, thanks to social media, travelers come from all over the world just to meet him, and the money they bring has let him move his family into a small home in town, while he still returns to share the life he loves. It's one of the purest examples you will ever find of tourism done right. A quiet life, honored instead of erased. So here's a question for you before we go on. Could you do it? Even for a single week? No electricity, no phone, no safety net. Just you, the cave, and the sea. Tell me honestly down in the comments. I genuinely want to know who among you could last. For nearly all of its history, Socotra sat safely outside the path of the great storms. Cyclones were something that happened to other places far away. And then came November 2015. In the span of barely a week, not one but 2 powerful cyclones slammed into the island back to back, among the worst storms in its entire recorded history. For a place with almost no experience of such weather and almost no infrastructure built to withstand it, the damage was staggering. Homes were flattened, fishing boats were lost, roads and whole villages were torn apart, and lives were lost with them. An island that had stood quietly apart for 90 million years was in a matter of days brought to its knees. Remember the man in the cave? He lived through it. When the cyclones came, he gathered his family and carried them to higher ground, watching the sea he had fished his whole life turn violent and unrecognizable. He still talks about it. The year the storms came twice. It was a brutal reminder that this paradise is also fragile, perched alone in an ocean that is slowly changing. Dragon blood trees that had survived 1,000 years of weather-lost limbs in a single night. And it left behind a quiet, uncomfortable question that now hangs over the whole island. In a warming world, how many more of these once-in-a-lifetime storms will a place this exposed be forced to face? And here's the last fact, the strangest one of all because it ties everything together. For a few months each year when the southwest monsoon sweeps across the Arabian Sea, Socotra effectively disappears. The winds turn ferocious, the waves heave too high and too violent for boats to cross. Historically, during these monsoon months, the island was sealed off from the outside world entirely. No supplies coming in, no people getting out, cut loose from everything beyond its own shores. And this is not some chapter from the distant past. Even today, the rhythm of the monsoon still rules life here. For part of every single year, one of the most beautiful places on Earth pulls up the drawbridge, leans into the wind, and simply waits, turned inward, alone, exactly as it has been for millions of years. In a strange way, that yearly vanishing act is the perfect summary of Socotra itself. This is a place that has always lived just out of reach. Too remote, too rugged, too wild to ever be fully tamed. And maybe that is the real secret to why it stays so magical. Season after season, century after century, the island protected itself simply by being a little too hard to get to. The only question left is whether it can keep doing so now that the flights are multiplying, the photos are spreading, and the rest of the world has finally come looking. So, is Socotra as dangerous as the headlines make it sound, or is it the best kept secret on Earth? After everything, the language with no alphabet, the blue spiders that live in families, the trees that bleed red, the man who found happiness in a cave, the island that vanishes for months and still somehow leaves a stranger's shoes untouched in the sand. I think the answer is obvious. Socotra isn't a place to be afraid of. It's a place to be amazed by, and maybe a little humbled by too. It's a reminder of why we travel in the first place, to find the corners of the world that still feel genuinely, stubbornly real. But it's changing faster than anyone expected. So if these 15 facts did their job, I hope they did just one thing. I made you want to see this strange, beautiful island for yourself before it changes for good.